The digital transformation process in legislative houses is a complex proposition. In-person process need to be reconsidered in order to adapt to the digital reality, always in compliance with the internal rules of the House and avoiding upsetting the internal balance of power. An impactful digital transformation strategy is keenly aware of the demand of internal users in the House, such as civil servants from other areas, such as the legislative process, members of parliament, and of course, people following the legislative process. A successful digital transformation strategy relies deeply on the views of its users, both internally and externally, without personal wishes of the product manager suppressing these needs. It's important to say that the solution needs to be adapted to the reality and demands from the House. Today, I have the pleasure to moderate a debate about user experience in the legislative. I'd like to welcome Patricia Roedel from the Brazilian House of Representatives, Sari Wilenius from the Parliament in Finland, and Robin Treistman from the Knesset in Israel. Be most welcome, all of you today. My first question is specifically to you, Sari. Sari, we know the pandemic of COVID-19 demanded the creation of digital spaces to replicate the dynamics of parliamentary activities virtually. However, yet in 2015, you led the parliament in Finland in the creation of a digital environment in the committees. Can you please share with us which problems you aim to tackle and how MPs and colleagues responded to the idea?
Thank you, Luís. I would say we had four main types of issues, like in-house customer engagement, some design challenges, data, and technical challenges. If we start from the in-house customer engagement issues, the challenge was to create a workspace version that would work with all committees. We had 16 different committees at the time, and they all had slightly different ways of working. So we had to bring all their views to the table and find a compromise that works with all the committees. This was only way if we were going to use automated functions to get data into workspaces. Another challenge was to find a common time to define the requirements. And a bit risky was that mainly committee officials were involved in defining the requirements and mostly parliamentary assistants, but the members themselves had difficulties finding time for planning. Then we faced some design challenges. Planning began as early as 2011, while our first version of committee digital workspaces was introduced in 2015. Maybe early startup, and because at that time costs were too high to optimize the solution for mobile devices, it was designed for laptops. So, however, we noticed that MPs only wanted to work with mobile devices, and we received a lot of criticism as feedback. MPs also brought up a couple of new features that we didn't find in the specifications. They wanted an easy way to edit PDF documents and save them for their own use to their mobile devices. Then it turned out that a mobile connection to the intranet was considered too difficult, and the use of documents didn't fully serve their needs. So we realized that there was no other way than to start designing a user experience that would work on mobile devices. The fully mobile version was released then in 2019. Then EU-level accessibility requirements came into force in 2020. And we had to make further adjustments to the interface to meet the requirements. Accessibility changes to our sites has generally been a very big project, although the impact on workspaces has not been as significant. Then we all know COVID-19 that brought to the committees the need for an informal remote meeting. And we had to add some features to the workspaces to be able to run informal remote meetings. And that was because of our law didn't allow formal committee meetings to be held in virtually. Our third issue group was data. The data we use is not really optimized for use on the intranet or internet. It was originally designed for the main system on which it's running and for text-based database retrieval. We had to parser the data and use search commands to point the data where we want it and how we want it. The last issue group was technical challenges. In the beginning, we had some performance issues on the main platform due to some lack of optimization. And the virtual private network connections with the required level of security for mobile devices were not easy to use and were very fragile for various upgrades. It was also challenging to build the necessary application programming interfaces to get all the information we needed and to make the interfaces reliable enough. Last, I would mention that sometimes some security level updates also disrupted some functionalities in workspaces. And today, the platform is more stable and such problems rarely occur, which we are, of course, really very pleased.
Robin, I'd like to move to you because we had a glimpse with Sari on the perspective on how to understand the demands of internal users in the house. But I'd like to bring you a question. To bring improvements to a website, application or platform access both by internal and external users require varied knowledge. And it's a project with different details that are interconnected. Can you please share the most interesting challenges your team found to bring improvements to the user experience in the Knesset website? You can bring both internal users and external users' perspective if you like.
I'm going to focus mainly on external users. One of the ways that our website staff views our role, as the Knesset website staff, is that we basically have, let's say, 8 million stockholders in our website. In other words, we would like to bring a website that was going to serve the entire Israeli public, plus more. I will get to that afterwards. But in any case, we are looking at our main challenge is to try to figure out how we can bring our information in the most user-friendly way to many different target audiences within that population. So if we're talking about at the same time, we are bringing information to journalists and to researchers and to students and to lawyers and to civil servants and to children school children, and to their parents who might need to help them find their material. And did I miss anybody? Teachers, and to the regular layman who wants to look up a law. We have to be able to bring our information to all of these different types of populations. And so that is actually I would think it's our greatest challenge, how we can bring, again, we're talking about the same information. So all of a sudden, the question is not so much what, okay, or what information, the question is how. And so that is how we've seen that is our greatest challenge. Do I have to tell you? I'm not sure if I can tell you how we have totally solved that challenge. I do know, I can say that for the most part, we do have, we know that we reach target audiences from different feedback that we've gotten over the years. And I'm going to go more into feedback probably in a different section. However, I did want to mention, like I said, we're talking about, let's say, our target population within Israel. I do want to mention, while I'm talking about that particular challenge, we also have a challenge with languages, because the website, we have sections in the website that are also in Hebrew, of course, is the main. We have English and Arabic and Russian. And we are intending that the Arabic website, or part of our website, is intended for Arabic speakers, mostly within Israel, but not necessarily. We're also looking to the Arabic speaking population of the rest of the world also. And that, again, is its own challenge. Which information do we translate? Which information do we see as, or our editors in Arabic see as important? And of course, the Russian speaking population in Israel, we have at least 1 million Russian speaking Israelis. So we're also looking at that population. And then, of course, the English website is really meant to serve the rest of the world. So we have all these target audiences. And that is, if I have to say, what is our biggest challenge? Our biggest challenge is to figure out the most user-friendly way to reach everybody, and to create an experience that will make each one of those populations find the information they need and come back again when they need the other information. I would like to propose a question to my colleagues at some point. Again, it doesn't have to be answered right now, but if we can answer maybe at the end, and to find out if they've had challenges of how to create, I'm going to use the word an experience, because it is actually a word that has popped up by us in the Knesset in the last few days. How to create an experience for the users. And again, someone can come to the Knesset website and do a search and find some information, or do we want to create some kind of wow that will, dazzle them? Is that our job? That's also an interesting question. Is that our job as a parliamentary website? I mean, when you think about it, most of the information is kind of boring as it is. Do we make it wow? Do we have to spend time and money making it wow? So these are questions that I would appreciate if anybody has any offers. If you've seen any parliamentary websites that have some kind of great experience. The one thing I can tell you that one challenge that we did do, and it actually was brilliant, was we created a I don't even know how to call it. It kind of like a riddle competition, in which we really brought to the Israeli public a set of riddles that were connected to politics in Israel over the years. And the first part was on the website. The second part, which we weeded out many of the people who had answered, we were left with 70 semifinalists. And then that second part was also through the website. And then the third part, when we were down to, I don't remember, maybe let's say 10 finalists, they actually physically came to the Knesset, and we had the final stage there. So we made a connection between the virtual and the real to create an experience. It was very successful. The idea being to be able to bring the idea of the parliament to the people, and not have it just be, this far off building somewhere where they make the laws, but it doesn't really affect me. It affects everybody. So that's one idea that we had. I was wondering, again, you guys can answer me later, please, if you know of any way to bring the experience of the parliament, to the people in a creative way. And that's it. So I hope I answered the question also.
If I may, can I postpone the answer to your question to the end of our debate? Because to be honest, I'm quite interested as well. But as a geek in the legislative process, I have to ask you, we're not talking about just the website. So for example, you're providing the documents, so the access to propositions, to laws, to the transcription of the debates happening in the Knesset. So I have a very interesting question that is, regarding the documents, which documents are you translating and which documents are you not? Because from what I understood, you were presenting the parts of the website you were translating, not specifically the documents. And at Bússola Tech, we usually translate a lot of debates on the legislative process and legislative digital transformation. And we see that it's quite complex to translate some of the terms some houses use it. So did you translate just the website, or are you translating documents as well? What are you doing in this regard?
It is an excellent question. The answer is that if we divide up the content of the website between static information and dynamic information, okay, where I'm going to translate right now, where I will use the word, or I will define static information is, let's say, information that about history, about the Knesset, how the Knesset runs, Knesset members' CVs, their information about each Knesset member, even though that's sort of dynamic, especially since we have lots of elections here, it seems like. Even though that seems dynamic, that is actually considered static information. Dynamic information would be laws or bills, protocols of committee meetings, protocols of the plenum meetings. All of that stuff is actually not translated. However, now let me jump for a second to dynamic versus static. There is something that is extremely dynamic on the website, and that is we have press releases that come out every day, that there are committee meetings or plenum meetings, or even when there's nothing happening in the parliament, we might still have press releases about some stuff that might be going on, or stuff that is planned, or features. Or feature articles. So all of that information, which we will call, let's say, call it news. Okay, the news, which is of course dynamic, is translated. So what happens is you have people in the various language populations, okay, can come to the Knesset website. They will not see the law translated into English, but they can read a press release in English that describes the law that was passed today. Okay, so again, it's sort of, again, it is filtered down. It is not the raw information. The raw data is not being translated as of today. If one day something will be translated, it will be actually in Arabic. Arabic would be the first language that would have the laws, the protocols, that would be translated. However, again, whether we have, it's a resource issue, whatever the issue is right now, the case is how I described it, that it is not translated now. However, again, like I said, your typical or regular Arab speaker can go into the Knesset website and read all about the activity that happened today, and even possibly sometimes in the press releases there are summaries of the laws that were dealt with during the day. So that's basically how it divides up. What is translated, what is not.
Patricia, I'd like to move to you. The Brazilian House of Representatives has seen an increase in its digital maturity in the last few years. One of the greatest changes is the availability of information for citizens through different channels. We know that a legislature is a center of information about our society in the format of the legislative process, meaning it's not easy for the general public to understand what is happening and which information is relevant. It's just what we are discussing here today. What was the goal when you decided to rebuild the webpage of the House of Representatives? And who was the primary audience being targeted?
That's funny, because for the past decade, we've been consistently well rated by control organs about access to information in our website. That's because we've always published all the legislative and administrative information about the House and we've even been quoted as an example of good transparency practice to be followed by other parliaments around the world. But the fact is, we were pleasing the technical organ, following transparency rules, but not reaching our main public, which is the general citizen. Instead, this citizen was looking for our information on private or NGO websites. We choose the raw data we provide, but processes it in a much easier way. So we had to be humble, and the fact is we provided a complete but difficult, disorganized, and non-user-friendly website. In these times of increasingly and utterly fake news, we want to be the primary source of information about the House of Representatives. We want to be easy enough for that. So the goal was to rebuild our website to make it easy to use for people between 18 and 60 years old that have at least completed high school. This public was the target of our user test, so it was a different path from Knesset. We didn't want to reach as many people as possible. And what this public showed us is that we are not doing a good job for them. What general non-specialized citizens want the most is a good mobile experience, a simple and good research tool, committees and plan on broadcasts, easy access to participation, services, and transparency information, the agenda, and don't make me think approach, gathering all the information about a topic on one page. Formerly, our website, menus, and organization were reflecting our administrative structure, which is not user-centered at all. So we've built pages for each deputy with all the information about them, not only the legislative ones. We've also built theme pages, which work as newspaper sections where the user can find all the bills, speeches, laws, news, broadcastings, technical studies, and committees related to the topic. We've also made navigation easier, defined by a card sorting method with the citizens. We've changed menu labels. We've made participation a transversal item at the website. Priorly, it was restricted to a participation section, not along the content as news and bills. And most important, we've made an easy visual way to follow a bills discussion through the House of Representatives. We simplified the information flow and provided a more manageable way to understand the process, but still showing in another layer all the specific and technical information for specialists. So that's what we've done.
I actually could witness this change from the previous website in the House of Representatives here in Brazil. Patricia, at the time, she was the director of the Innovation Lab here in Brazil, in the Brazilian House of Representatives. So it was very interesting to see this transition. Sari, I'd like to move back to you. You share the main characteristics of the digital workspace in the committees in our series. Something I recommend our viewers to watch. We are adding the link down here. I'd like to ask you to highlight the major changes in the dynamics of the Parliament House and the legislative process. How did the project impact the work of the colleagues, civil servants, and MPs?
Okay. At first, of course, there were some resistance to using new way of working. But then the first change we noticed was that the use of paper and copying services decreased. So we kind of added green values and our carbon footprint decreased. So in fact, it also made the work of committee officials easier and faster by enabling them to publish digitally accessible documents widely available to everyone. At the same time, this serves the transparency of the information. Today, most of MPs favor mobile workspaces, and they actually demand that they must work 24/7, so round the clock, I mean. And workspaces have made their life easier in that way that now all the documents and their right versions are with MPs all the time and everywhere. I would say that this was maybe the main impact here.
It's actually quite interesting because from a member's perspective, you are actually empower the mandate of the parliament member by providing the means to participate digitally and not necessarily to be at the parliament house. For example, some of the challenges that many parliaments faced last year, we saw the legislatures both at national and subnational level that were already experiencing these kinds of digital workspaces. They made the transition during the pandemic way more easy, much easier, because the users, both civil servants and members, they were already used to the solution. For example, it's not unusual for us to see colleagues in national legislatures to struggle during the pandemic because all the processes in the House and the management of the legislative process was made in paper and in person. So they had quite a few challenges during this pandemic to maintain, to assure the continuity of legislative business. Robin, I'd like to go back with you. In a UX project, which is divided into different stages, we know that there is a lot of research, prototyping, and testing. What do you consider to be fundamental UX tools that help you and your team in improving the user experience in relation to the Knesset website? And what are your recommendations to other legislative houses that aim to improve society experiences with their platforms as well?
One will be with actually the creation and development of new projects or existing projects on the website, and the second part will be regarding our staff. So the first, you said yourself, you used the word yourself, research. Okay, one of the if we have a new project that we need to do, actually, I want to address one second. I want to address Patricia for a second. I want to thank you for coming out and explaining how when you, or admitting that when you saw that you were not reaching your users, you were willing to really start over, to admit, maybe we did something wrong and we have to do it again, or let's start over and let's do it. And first of all, I really I congratulate you on that. I think that's very brave and very important. And I just so you know, I think that, clapping for you. Okay, anyhow. So one of the things that we do before, let's say we have a new project to redo, we see something that is old, it is old-fashioned, it is a section on our site that has not been touched for years, and we need to redo it. So what do we do? How do we start? So like you said, the word research is really like where we start from. We do a tremendous amount of research first. And we will look at other parliamentary websites, other government websites, see what they do, see what looks successful, see what looks less successful. We will spend time doing that. We will also spend time if we need to, let's say, make decisions of real estate decisions, such as, where we put things on the site, where we put them on the page. Very important. We look at user behavior. With using tools such as Google Analytics and other tools that can measure, again, let's call it users' behavior. Beyond that, okay, then after having created, or I should say, not created, gathered all of this information, then we will start to create we will start to create the new section on our site, and then implement it. Usually when we open up a new section on our website, we usually open up, we will do a quiet launch where we don't publicize the new link, but we will send it to our own staff and other relevant staffs inside of the Knesset and let people start to use it, let people give us back their comments. I will tell you now that we do not use any major, what do we call it? Any real testing or user testing before we actually launch it to the public. We do not hire any firms to do that. We do not have a pilot. We don't go and find 1,000 people and make a pilot. We do not do that. We do try to save time and money not doing that. However, and this is one of the most important things, is that we are extremely, extremely attentive to feedback. Now, once a new site or a new section of the site is opened up, we are very attentive to feedback that we get. And if we get feedback that says, there might be something wrong here, this button might not be useful or whatever it might be from the public, we reevaluate, even if it's something small and if it's something big, we will reevaluate. Thank God we've had really a lot of success over the years because of that, because we're willing to say, you know what, maybe that wasn't so good, let's redo it. And I can even give an example. We have a navigation bar on our site, and we went from what we call the mega menu to really a two-dimensional menu. The mega menu was really got people to further down inside of the site to information that might otherwise be buried. And we switched to a two-dimensional menu for various reasons. We actually thought that would be an improvement. And boy, the public did not like that. They did not like that. And we spent the money and put back the mega menu. And you know what? And said, thank you very much for your feedback. We are not going to be embarrassed about this move. And we just went ahead and did it, meaning switched back. I do want to, one word about our staff. One of the reasons I think that our website is very successful is because we have people on our staff who are professionals in what they do, and they are in-house. In other words, let's say I'll use our graphics designer, who is also a UX expert. She went and she took courses. She took courses in not only design and user friendliness and user experience and the user interface. And she is an employee of the Knesset who lives the Knesset. So when we have neither new projects or improvements to be made, anytime that we've sent it out to a company to create something new for the website, it has always come back and it's been a failure, and we basically have to redo it from scratch. And in fact, right now, as we speak, we have such a project that is being redone right now. It was sent out. We spent, the Knesset spent X amount of money to have it, to make the, I don't even know the word in English, to characterize the site, to do the design, basically the design of the site. And it came back, and even the department in the Knesset that sent it out realized that, we need to do it. We need to do it in-house because we know the technology and we know the Knesset. That's the most winning combination I think that you can have, is to have a staff, again, technical, graphics, user experience, content writers, everybody who is inside, who knows the parliament and knows and can also do their jobs right. So okay. So the original question was, that is basically how we address the user experience issues. Like I said, we do not do testing on the outside. Again, I don't know, I'm not proud of that, but that's just the reality. Okay, that's just how we work. Basically, I know that there are parliaments that probably do and probably spend money and time on that, and it might, maybe that works very well. We're finding that we're managing without it. So again, I can't recommend any tools. Google Analytics, though, if people who are working without it, I don't know how you guys manage. If anybody works without using Google Analytics to really see what is being visited in the site, what is not, what is being clicked, what is not. It's, that to me is basic. Let me see if one second, I'm looking at my notes, see if I forgot anything. One other thing, if we develop a new component on the site, and I'll give you an example. Right now, we have gone from, let's say, using different parameters in a search to doing what they do on many commercial sites, which is a filter. If I go to a commercial site and I want to buy a dress, so I go and I look at dresses, and then, but you know what? I only want a white dress. So I click on the filter and it only shows me the white dresses. Wait, I only want a dress that's going to be below my knees. I click on the length on that. And so eventually I filter down to what I want. And we have just now recently, we've created a new section on the site. The filter is very successful. And again, we found a successful component that we're going to duplicate it in other sections of the site to make it easier for the public to find, protocols, laws, and other things. So that's also how we work.
Actually, you just gave me an insight, but I'll bring on our last question that will be more appropriate. You mentioned the research part. I'd like to recommend the three of you and also our viewers today. There is a very interesting job done by the Parliament in Ireland. They performed a quite comprehensive research before they developed their digital transformation strategy. And if I'm not mistaken, they actually had one specific topic looking at other parliaments' websites. And they analyzed it and saw the best practices in a way to understand how to move forward in their case. So I highly recommend you to access this research. We will put the link down here as well for our users. There is a video presentation from Catherine from the Parliament in Ireland, and also the links for their research. It would be quite interesting to see. Patricia, I'd like to move back to you. You shared also an in-depth presentation of the project in the Legislatech series about the implementation of a new web page in the House of Representatives in Brazil. We know that a project of the extension can be politically difficult to execute inside a legislature, since it deeply impacts the work of colleagues, civil servants, and MPs. In your opinion, how did the project impact civil servants, MPs, and the public that usually follows the legislative process and the general public? And of course, if you want to comment the insights of Robin, you are welcome to do so.
Okay, I don't think the project had a direct impact on MPs, although it has evidence-sensible data about expenses, official travels, and work absence, for example, and made it easier for the press to control what MPs are doing. As for the general public, we are quite sure that the new website is easier to browse and to understand because everything we've changed was tested. I'll talk about it later, Robin, because you said about spending money and time on that. And what we've done was very simple, and we have done it ourselves. So it's a nice experience to tell. The public that usually follows the legislative process didn't lose any information. It was only differently assembled. And the main obstacles were related to the internal public. We had to make considerable changes in the work process of civil servants to make it possible to show information in a more comprehensive way. Most of them use the website as a tool for their own work. So sometimes we didn't succeed to change vocabulary or the navigation structure of a page because some colleagues didn't want it changed, even though our usability tests have shown that non-specialist people couldn't reach or understand the content. So that was our main challenge, coping with our colleagues.
Patricia, I'd like to follow up with you on that. I recall a few debates, not only here in Brazil, but also in other legislatures as well, because not necessarily the best way for the information to be it would be, let's say, for example, I'm looking for a report from the committee of a meeting in the committee. So let's say I'll go to the top menu, I search legislative process, then I go to the committees, then I find the committee, then I find the date of the committee, then I find the report. So basically, it would be the most logical way for some people to find this information because they are already used to finding this information. But as you said, for the general public, it's not easy for them to find. So can you explore a little bit more on this challenge? How did you convince colleagues from other areas that the information, okay, it might not make sense to be there, but for other people, for the general public, it makes sense to be there. Can you explain a little bit more how you face this challenge?
We had two big helpers to convince them. The first one, we've also done a lot of research prior to start the project. So we had Google Analytics analysis. We also had benchmark with other parliaments websites and many tests that showed the difficulties that general citizens had to find the information in our website. The structure was very difficult. The organization was not intuitive. The second one was a card sorting method we have done that showed that many information were at the wrong place. And showing that to our directors of many areas, it was easier for us to make the change. And something very interesting we've done, it was making the same tests with those directors. We asked them to find some information at our website, information which were not from their areas, and they couldn't find them. That was very interesting, and it was a good strategy to help us and to show them that it was not easy for someone who is not familiar to the theme. And something else we've done, it was not for the exploratory user, as you've said, someone who is going to look for any information at the menu, but searching, we've put a Google search in our website. It's a Google simple search. We also have filters, but with that tool, it was much easier to find information just Googling as you do it outside of the website, because many people just put news about some issue. That's the easier way to find it. So we went to the both paths. The architecture is simpler, and the search tool is also very good now.
Actually, it just reminded me from a case in the US, a subnational legislature in the US. The party leadership wanted to use the data from voting, from the projects. Anyway, they wanted to digitalize their leadership in the House, and they asked for the clerk for this information. And the clerk said, okay, we already provide this information. It's here on the website. Basically, they had no idea. And we were talking about the party leadership, and they didn't know that data was available. So it totally makes sense what you're talking about. Sometimes even colleagues don't know where to find this information. And systems such as in Brazil, that there are two houses, the lower house and the upper house, there is sometimes a even larger challenge that the number of the proposition changes from one house to the other. So
not anymore. Nowadays, it's the same number, but it's very recent, this change.
Yes, in Brazil, I think this is from 2019 or 2020. I don't recall it now.
Yeah.
But in some other houses, in some other countries, it's still they haven't unified the number of the propositions. So it's still a challenge for people following the legislative process to actually find information. So it's very interesting to see what happened in Brazil. Now we're moving to the last question of our debate today. I'd like to propose you a provocation for us to look to the future, look to this post-pandemic future, where the dynamics, although they have to return to in-person meetings or hybrid meetings, but we have reached out to more people and interested in the legislative process. More people want to access the information, want to participate in the activities in the legislative houses, which is a marvelous thing to happen. And my provocation is, what are the next steps? So Sari, I'd like to begin with you. Taking the knowledge and expertise gained during the implementation of the project and the feedback from colleagues and MPs, what's your view? What are the next steps for us to move into the future?
Okay, the first lessons what we learned from our experience before, that the experience for the MP must be easy, fast, and it has to run around the clock. And then another thing is that when you do something, do it visual, what you are doing about. So make some sort of minimum viable product, proto, or just an image of the user interface, what you are doing, that you can test your idea. So actually what we are doing now next in our project is that we will improve even more the user experience of mobile devices to access our intranet. And also the life cycle of the workspace is coming to an end in few years. And we need to start thinking about how we will modernize it. Maybe these things are regarding us at the moment with our project.
Robin, the same question to you. What's your vision for the future of the Knesset webpage, specifically regarding citizen experience and engagement?
Ever heard the term, if it's not broken, don't fix it? Okay. In other words, if something works, then we like to stay with it as long as it keeps working. We just have to make sure that it keeps working. There are certain things that we are improving over time, and we see, again, because we can't take the, I think one of the things that came up today was this tremendous amount of information that is on a website and having to be able to locate, because parliaments produce so much information all the time. And again, and especially if you're talking about multi-language, then it's that much more. So again, we can't change an entire website over time. Let's say, with mobile, if we went back 10 years ago, who the heck thought that we have to take our entire website and make it mobile friendly? And again, Sari talked a lot about that, especially, when she was talking about her MPs need to always access from, 24/7 from their mobile. All of a sudden, who would have thought that people are accessing our information more from their phones than from their computers? We would not have thought that, again, 10 years ago. And yes, we cannot take the entire website in one shot and make the entire thing user-friendly. So again, as the future comes along, which means basically every day, we work a little bit more and more on taking current pages and making them mobile friendly. And another way that we found to engage the public a little bit better is to use more pictures and video and less words. Okay, people don't want to read. Okay, if they want to read the protocol, then they really have a reason to read the protocol, but they want to see a picture. They want to see a video. They want to see the VOD of that meeting that, where somebody yelled at somebody else, that they want to see. They don't really necessarily want to read it. So we're going in the direction of more visual and less wordy. Again, but again, we have to make sure that there is access to the words. Okay, people have to have access to the protocols and to the laws and to the dry information. Okay, one of the things, and also Patricia mentioned that there is still one aspect of the website that is not yet, we have not yet completed it. It is something that is bothering us because the public goes to a paid service to get it. Okay, the example is what we call a consolidated law. If you want to see today what a law looks like with all of the amendments put right into the law, you have to pay to a service to get that. The Knesset has been working and is working, and it will happen soon, to provide the consolidated versions of all of the laws so that people don't have to pay for it. That's, again, we are we have like I said, we have 8 million plus stockholders in our website. We need to give them the service, services so that they don't have to pay for it. This is a democracy. This is, people have the right to that information without having to, dig into their pockets to, for it. Another, one of the things that we've learned over the years, and then we still implement it and we will continue implementing it. New doesn't always mean better, and expensive does not always mean better, okay? Just because there's a new technology out there doesn't automatically mean that it's, something, and this is also, I think both of you address this issue, that sometimes you have the technical people that say, hey, we have this great idea, let's implement this great new technology into the website, but you know what, maybe it's not good for the public. Maybe we're not ready for it yet. Whatever it is. And so sometimes, again, like I said, going by that guideline, that new doesn't automatically mean better, and expensive doesn't automatically mean better. On the other hand, you do get what you pay for, right? So you have to find the balance that, again, paying, by the way, might mean with time. If it means that the website staff has to spend more time to create something that's worthwhile, it might be worthwhile to do that. Okay, one other thing. Okay, and I also wanted to address something that Patricia said about the searches. We also found the Knesset had, for a long time ago, the Knesset did a lot of research and spent a lot of money on consultants regarding search. Okay, search the information within the Knesset and search of the Knesset for search of the information from people from outside. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of money. And guess what we use on the website? The little simple search button of Google. Okay, now let me back up 1 second and say one of the things that we have found over the years is that it is worthwhile investing. And again, I'm not going to use not necessarily money. We have a person on our staff, who actually 2 of us on our staff, who took a special course in SEO, in search engine optimization. And again, remember, in-house, we don't have to go to an outside expert. We have in-house people who've learned how to deal with SEO and to get our searches, our information higher up on Google searches, because in the end of the day, most people are not going to get to that web page they want from my homepage. They're not going to come to my homepage and start click and click and click. They're going to do a search on Google, and I'm hoping that my page will be one of the first ones that land up that's going to get them to the information that they need. And again, so that's the SEO there. And then plus we use Google internally on an internal search, and it works. Pretty much what I would like to, that I wanted to sum up with that. Even though, okay, so after, at the end, I also there was one more question I wanted to propose to Sari also after, before we finish.
I do have a provocation for you, Robin. It's rhetorical. If you like, you can answer. But we do have an area here at Bússola Tech that we gather the most insane ideas to be implemented in Parliament and discuss it how this could happen. We call it Bússola X. And basically, one of them is we change the dynamics for the transparency policy for resumes not only on people seeking out information, but as you mentioned, parliament houses or legislatures at any level, they are centers of information of that jurisdiction. So the city, the state, the province, or the nation. It's a lot of content. So basically, if I want to access any of these 3 houses represented here today, I will take years to actually find all the content. And basically, something that we have been discussing is why not the content, the segmented content, reach out the user. So for example, myself as a user, I'm interested in innovation, in technology, in emerging technologies. Why can't I receive notifications from the web, from the Knesset or the Brazilian House of Representatives or the Parliament in Finland about projects or propositions being debated about these themes? So this is something that we consider that could be, we can't say that for sure, be a next step for legislatures to be closer to citizens. Maybe I'm not willing to spend my time on seeing all the debates happening in the legislature, but maybe I'm very interested to see what's happening on that specific issue. Maybe I work with this issue. Maybe I'm researching about this issue. So this is a rhetorical provocation here. If you like, you can comment. Otherwise, I can follow to Patricia's question.
Quite a few years ago, when it was really trendy to make an app, okay, the Knesset, it was very important to the Knesset to make an app for cell phones, okay. And at the time, it was very, again, like I said, it was very trendy. It was very important for the Knesset to make an app. And so what's going to be the difference between the app and a mobile-friendly website? What's going to be the difference? Exactly what you said is the difference. In other words, the push data, all right, that's going to show up through the app. In other words, if I'm on the app and I select different subjects on the app and I have it pushed to me and say, okay, today there was a meeting regarding, I don't know, eating liver. Okay, whatever it is. Today there was a, whatever the topic is that was interesting me, I will get a notification on my cell phone then, or that there will be a meeting or that there was a meeting. And here you can see the video. That is something that we very much want to go back to. The app has since been taken down from the stores. It became old, it became outdated, it became obsolete. So we don't have it. But yes, the answer is absolutely, that is definitely a next step. And bringing the experience of the parliament to the person, personalized based on what they are interested in. That is something that we can look forward to.
Patricia, I'd like to pose you the last question of our debate today. We understand this project at the Brazilian House of Representatives is a milestone on the transparency policy. In your view, again, what are the next steps for the Brazilian House of Representatives to move forward in this project?
There are basically two. The first one is to publish the website governance policy so the rules and the priority public gets clear. I suppose I'm speaking to colleagues from other parliaments here, so maybe our struggle is the same as yours. Unfortunately, unlike what happens at the Knesset, our website staff has no technical independence, so the changes we make must be approved by many other areas, which leads to debates with different agents. Even with test results that show the user experience is bad at some point, we need the approval of many areas to make the required change. It's still confusing to know who decides about language, simplification, content hierarchy, when the results of our user tests oppose to the view of the internal public. Unfortunately, without a clear rule, thousands of internal view visits per year can outweigh thousands of millions of external visits, just because as insiders, their voices are louder. The second step is highly dependent on the first, to adopt plain language at the whole website. When it's fully done, citizens will be able to first find out what they want. Second, understand what they found, understand the terms, literally the terms which are written. And third, use the information in the desired context. I'll give you an example. If you want to know how did your congressman vote on a specific bill, you should be able to find this information. You should be able to understand the terms that describe the voting process and the bill, but also understand what does that vote, like for the suppressive amendment, means. in terms of his opinion. People don't want to know only if a vote was yes or no, but what does it mean in the context of the bill? That's real transparency. It's difficult to do it.
Before I open for your closing remarks, I remember that Robin posed a question on the very beginning of our debate. Robin, would you like to pose your question for Patricia? In the meantime, Robin, if you want to bring your question to Patricia.
I also, again, I do have a question I'd like to ask Sari based on what she said, but in the meantime, again, I was wondering, first of all, I wanted you to know that I understand what you are going through, exactly what you said about how, you have millions of people who might say one thing about your website, but the louder ones who have more control are the ones inside, and I get it. We are very lucky that we were able to break off, so to speak, our Knesset website staff, and I would so recommend our model to any government, really any kind of government office website, because we are largely let me back up. If we have to do some kind of a new, very large project, of course it has to be approved. The budget has to be approved, and we don't have all of our development in-house, but there is a computer company inside the Knesset. Again, we have to have a budget approved if we need to use their services. But again, they're so entrenched inside of the Knesset that they're really almost a part of our staff. Okay, so we have a lot of independence from these sorts of influences, I should say, or obstacles. Thank God, because so that's what I would say is if anyone can build a staff that can do most of their work by themselves, that's the best. I personally have knowledge in web development, so again, within the permissions that I have. And I have another person who works with me on that. And plus we have our own graphic designers. We can create an entire sub website in a month if we need to, okay? Using the out of the box features of our platform, okay? Again, as soon as I need to start accessing large databases and stuff like that, we need our, the other development team, okay? But we can create a tremendous amount of very user-friendly pages all by ourselves. And so I would recommend this model for any parliament, if you can. Now, so back to this. The word experience is this word that's been popping up all over the place by us, okay, by inside of the Knesset. Okay, anyhow, so I'm trying to find an example, if you have one or if you know of one from some other parliament, how can we create an experience that will reach the public and raise the image of how everyone sees the parliament. Everybody knows that, all parliaments in the world, we share the same problem of like, oh, you work at a parliament? Oh, but those guys are I have nothing to do with the members of parliament. I create the platform for democracy. I'm not the players, okay? So how can I bring my platform, the idea that the parliament is the central piece of democracy to the public in an experiential way? Do either of you do you have any ideas? Have you seen anything? How important is it to your parliaments to do that?
We're not doing that. We're just trying to do a simpler website. But the Brazilian parliaments have some programs, educational programs, which are very good for the image of the parliament. And that's not about the website, although they are inside the website. But we have many educational programs for different publics, for teachers, for small kids, for high school kids, for university students. And they go there, they spend a week, they have internal classes at the parliament, they have a simulation of the parliament with their peers. So there are many different educational programs. I think that's a good idea, but that's not exactly about our job. Our job is just to show it, to show these programs. But about the website, I think a good strategy is to be more transparent, to have raw data available for the press, to try to describe and show in a more visual way the transparency data, the votation data, the expense data. That's a good way to show that we are trying to be easy to understand, we are trying to be clear, transparent, and maybe also some participation tools. As far as we have a way for the people to make questions at public meetings of the committees, that's a nice thing to do. And it's not that difficult if the participation is really heard by the MPs. If it's only something like a feature, I don't think it's a good idea.
Sari, I wanted to ask you something. This workspace that you're talking about that you created for the MPs, I'm going to first make an assumption that it is an internal system of some sort. Correct? It is something that only they can access, obviously. Yes?
Okay, those workspaces are actually planned for the committees, and the civil servants of the committees are using it as their own working platform, but they are sharing all the information what the MPs need regarding that committee work inside that workspace. That actually MP's role is more just to use the information, what is inside the workspace, than not actually making any activities there.
So what I was wondering, and maybe also Patricia, and maybe also Luís, with your knowledge of many parliaments, do you know, and again, maybe in your parliaments it is like that, of any parliaments that have, let's say I go to the Knesset website. It is a public website for the entire world population to go in there. Have you ever seen a parliamentary website that has, let's say, a button that says MP space only? Okay, in other words, if I'm an MP, all right, I can go into that space, and we can even call it, let's say, a workspace for an MP there, and he or she can go in with a password, but they access it from the public website. Have you ever seen that?
I do have something close to it. Is even here in Brazil. It's not the website, but it's the app. So both the House and the Senate, they have an app. For the Brazilian House of Representatives, it's the Infolag app. And in the Senate, they have, oh, I'm sorry, the Senate's not the app, I'm mistaken. But in the House, basically, anyone can download the app and use it and follow the legislative process. But during the remote deliberations, basically, you have an area where the MP logs in and see what is happening and can cast a vote and can make their presence known, etc. A comprehensive website where an MP can access privileged information, confidential information, and what's happening, honestly, not to my knowledge. The closest thing to me would be this feature in the Infolag app.
And do either of you, Sari, with again, with the workspace of the committee, is there any, like, someone from the public would not necessarily even know about this? I'm asking, no, they wouldn't even know about these workspaces because it's not public at all, right? They access it straight from an internal system.
Yes, actually, these workspaces are part of our intranet solution, and yes. And for our public, we have, of course, normal internet pages, and we share pretty much 90% all of our information is public information, what is shared in our internet. But for inside working, we have been creating these workspaces, and of course for our staff, MPs, assistants, and political parties, we have this intranet and special workspaces.
It makes the most sense to the intranet, and of course the Knesset has its own what we call our internal portal. Of course, is all the information that one can see on the portal, by the way, such as all of the dry information, all of the laws and the bills and the protocols, everything that is on the internal, of course, gets represented again on the external. But of course, there's much information on the internal that nobody from the public can see. So that makes sense about these workspaces and stuff. Okay, thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Sari. For us to finish our debate today, first I'd like to thank you all for participating in this interesting discussion today. I'd like to open a short period of time for you to share your closing remarks, anything you believe it's relevant to our viewers today. Sari, would you like to share your closing remarks with us?
Thank you, Luís, and thank you being able to participate in this debate today. And it has been, again, really interesting to find out that how similar issues we are actually dealing with. And it is going on a lot of similar kind of thinking and issues I see in all of the parliaments here in Israel and in Brazil. And we have clearly a lot what we can learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Robin, would you like to share your closing remarks as well?
Similar to Sari, I would really like to thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this platform. I think I mentioned once on the on the series that I would love to host everybody by us in Jerusalem, and to be able to have a seminar where we're actually in the same room. How would you like that? Anyhow, we all drink a cup of coffee together. How that sounds really far away, but one day. And again, thank you. And yes, I agree with Sari what you just said. We all share very similar challenges, all the way from how the public feels to how our bosses feel, and how we all have very similar challenges. And I think that we all have much to learn from each other. And again, give me more time and I will have more questions. I'll have more questions to ask you and say, because again, we always want to learn. We always want to see what we can do better. And somebody out there has an idea that's better than mine. So I want to find it, and so that's so again, so thank you for providing the forum, and hopefully we'll see you all soon somewhere.
Patricia, would you like to share your closing remarks with us as well?
I would really love to meet you in person and to share our experiences and doubts and find solutions together, because it seems it's the same problem everywhere. And Luís, maybe you should make a bigger event, a seminar with more people. This is I'm very passionate about this, about user experience, and I'd love to know more about the other parliaments' experiences. And I also invite you to come to Brazil. I want to go to Jerusalem too. And so we can talk deeply about our experiences. Thank you very much.
If it was up to me, we were having a cup of coffee right at this very moment, but hopefully next year, when this pandemic is over, we can get together and spend a week talking about UX on how to make our legislatures more digital ready. Anyway, here's my commitment. When this pandemic is over, we will be together in person to share a cup of coffee. And obviously, it would be a pleasure to visit you, Sari, in Finland, or you, Robin, in Israel. So thank you again for your presence here today. And to our users, I'd like to be I'm being a little bit repetitive, but both Sari, Robin, and Patricia shared in-depth presentations in our Legisla Tech series. Just click here, access, and you can see a more detailed presentation of all these amazing projects we saw today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this amazing debate today.